We're in courses 04, 15 leaf, and I've moved into index 01. And we can see here we have an example of cats and their carers. A cat has a carer. A carer can also have a cat assigned to it. It can also have a dog with a string. This is just so we can look at the resolver chain. In our queries, we resolve a cat and we can pass in a name for the cat, and the same for a carer. So having done npm run dev01, what we can do is we can go in here and just run these initial queries, and we have them basically down at the bottom here. We have this one here, a query, and we're only really interested in the cat one for the moment. So if we come in here and type that, we're passing in an input variable, and we get the cat name is Garfield, age 22, carer, and the carer name. And let's see how that's resolved. So if we come in here, we can see that we have a carer with a carer name, cat dog, a cat name, age, and carer. So when we come into a cat, we basically return back here a hard-coded form of the argument name, the age, the carer, and as you can see I predefined it with this particular code, query.cat.sally. In this carer query, we've got no other queries, only the carer one, but we're in the top level cat. So when we come into the back here into cat and we get cat name, age, carer, and the carer name, we get back only what it knows, which is the hard-coded form in here. One other thing we have started to introduce is this context. We've seen before how we get 4 variables passed into the resolver, and if we look at the resolver here in cat, we get, as we've seen before, the parent. In this case there's nothing because it's a top level query. The arguments, we've seen that before. The third one is the context, which is passed to every request, and then the info, which is a very complex abstract syntax tree of the whole query. So when we come in here, by defining context as a function, we can return something that will return on every request, hence it's a function rather than an object. And in this example, I'm just introducing the concept of is logged in true, something that'll be available. We could obviously do authentication outside here and pass in a property, but just to show now that when we come in and we actually see it, we can see that when we run our query, we can see that are we displaying it out in query cat. Let's have a quick look at the code. Are we not logging out the console query ctx is logged in? Let's do a control C. There we see true. So if we do control C and if we run it again, if we just do a clear, run dev01, open that up, see it there. If we run this, we will see a debug of what's going on. We can see we're in the query cat. I can look at that AST object, we'll look at that in a minute, but we can see here I'm in query cat.parents undefined because there was nothing above it. We've got the argument's name, and we can also access the context, and we're displaying the context is logged in. So if we have a quick look back at what we're logging out in query, we're doing in query cat, we're showing the info object here using the show AST function, which I put here, and basically because it's very complex I'm just picking out a few different things, but you can see the parent type, the field name, the return type. We're getting the parent, we're getting the arg's name, we've seen that before. We can get the variable passed in, and I can also access the context and get that is logged in property. So if we come down here, we can see the parent type is query, the field name that we're on is in cat here, the return type is a cat, and basically we can see the parent is undefined, the argument name is Garfield, and the context is true. But this is actually hard coded, and this would work well if we're doing a REST API or something and we're getting back all the information, but we want to see how we can resolve the individual fields on a cat, because a cat has a carer name, a cat name, an age, and a carer, and we may want to overwrite those rather than just getting the initial version from the first call here, and we'll see that in index 02.